Friday night racing returns here for the iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship presented by Cooper Tires. And today we get set to go racing down under here in Australia. It is the Mount Panorama Circuit located in Bathurst in New South Wales, Australia. We get set to go racing for yet another race here for this brilliant Indy Pro 2000 series. My name is Dylan Rempel. I've got Lorenzo Bonham beside me in the commentary box. Tyler Maxson now behind the cameras with us for tonight's race. So 15 laps getting set to get underway under what is arguably one of the most difficult tracks of the season, as well as the longest track we've got of the season so far here, Lorenzo.
I don't think it is arguably one of the most difficult. It is the most difficult track of the season by its long shot. It's Mount Panorama, so it's long elevations, up and down, going up and down like a roller coaster. Bare minimal runoff areas. If you make a mistake, you hit the wall, your race is done. It's going to be pandemonium, but it should provide an interesting race if they allow us to give us a good race.
Of course, mentioned the fact that there is little runoff area at this track. I'd go so far as to argue there is no runoff area at about 70% of this circuit, really. I mean, everything from when you start to fly up the hill over at the Quarry Bend all the way down through Forest Elbow, there is virtually no runoff area whatsoever. The only places you'll find any kind of major runoff is actually down through the Chase, because even at Murray's Corner and Hell Corner, of course, the final corner and the dreaded Turn 1, even those two corners, they have got some very tiny sand traps as well. It is an unforgiving track, and it punishes every little mistake you make offline. The good news is, unlike in the V8 Supercars, most famed to be running around this track in the Bathurst 1000, of course, these Indy Pro PM 2018s, they can be a little bit more easy to wrangle around, I would say.
Yeah, it's easy to wrangle around, but the problem is you have the lap one infamy of the cold tires of the Indy Pro 2000. So the problem is, there's a good chance you might skid off a corner just because the tires are cold and you're misjudging the corner, or you're side by side and you're in the wrong line. As first laps are coming in and Matthias Wittikainen doing the best lap so far, people are here's the thing. You might sound impressed with the gas that we were having, but this is Mount Panorama, so at the same time, I'm not surprised these gaps are widening up.
And you can see a couple of cars getting up and onto the curbing there. I believe that was John Bodeford that we had seen just getting up and onto the curbing there on the exit of turn number 2. And that's, of course, a deadly place to get on up, especially through the start of this track. You can see Bodeford twitching that back end out as he flies his way up and over the hills, up and over the curbs as well. Of course, we've seen it before. These Indy Pro 2000s definitely have some interesting reactions to some of the curbings. And at this track, being able to make sure that what curbs you can kind of get on and which curbs you have to stay away from is going to be crucial to having a clean race.
Yeah, and know when to make your overtake as well, because I think we often mention John Bodeford having a little bit of a miss going down the skyline into the S's. And it's normal, right? It's such a difficult track for you to get the lap right, and we saw right there a perfect example of how these fine margins and the dips of the track can make this lap so hard.
It's going to be crucial to make sure that you can be absolutely on point through every single sector of this racetrack, through every single corner, right on board with Wittikainen, the #1 driver, and currently #1 on the track as well. Or he was at least the benchmark time, but has since dropped back to a good old first place. And you got the Wittikainen up there in front, and I mean, you look at the gaps, right? 1.4 seconds back to David Porcelli. We haven't seen gaps like that all the way since the Detroit Belle Isle Street Circuit race a few weeks ago. So this could be one of those tracks that's decided more on overall momentum than it is about actual on-track pace and battles. As and we're never going to go second fast, but even that, not able to even get close to break within a second of Wittikainen's pull time so far.
Yeah, and people might sound surprised this 1.2. I think even the Belle Isle, to be very honest with you, I think top 5 was kind of close. It was within still the 1 second gap, but then it stretched out pretty much throughout the field. But in here, because the track is so lengthy and also has that elevation change, it makes it so difficult for you to nail every single corner. There will be a corner where you're gonna miss, as we can see, and your lap goes in shambles just like that.
You take a ride on board with John Silva currently ducking his way up and down through the second side of the racetrack, through the dipper and out through Force Elbow, down the Conrad Straight. And this is, of course, where the cars will hit their point, accelerating well in excess of 150 miles an hour down this front straightaway, up and over the rise underneath the Mitsubishi Fuso sign as they get set to duck into the fearsome chase, a section that has seen so many thrilling battles and so many terrifying wrecks throughout the years. Hard on the brakes, though, for these couple of final corners before you get, of course, to Murray's corner and that final corner before you get set to end out the lap. It's honestly almost a bit of an anti-climax, this final corner, isn't it, Lorenzo, considering the chase and such the fearsome complex that precedes it?
Yeah, it's funny. Let's take consideration that these cars are not, of course, they're not the V8 supercars, as I think John just did the last lap of the qualifying. But if we consider, after going about 250 down the straight, and you go into a very, very slow corner, a 90-degree corner, to finalize your lap, it does sound a little bit weird.
So the qualifying is complete. Let's take a look at your official starting grid here from this race. 15 laps going to be set to get underway. It is Matthias Vittikainen up on pole position. Amadima starts beside him, which will be on the front row as they get set to grid on up just shy of the chase. You got David Porcelli down in third place with John Bodefer in fourth to line things up today. Lucas Poplar, Rashad Craig in fifth and sixth. It's Frank Newen and Alex Sevillano Ieto down in eighth place. Conor Melia and John Silva Lorenzo rounded out the top 10.
As we have the other guys on the track, Erika Lindstrom in 11th, Alex May 12th, James Watson 13th, Greg Garris in 14th, Jason Paydo, Martin Arnaudos goes into row number 8, Michael Carpenter, David Starr, David Bradley, and Earl Setzer round out the top 20.
And that leaves the last two drivers, of course. You got Brad Youngman along with Shane Holstein and Rowdy Moreland. 16th on back, not having time to set qualifying times here today from Mount Panorama. You see Matthias Vittikainen in that very green machine getting set to see what he can do from pole position. And I have to say, if Vittikainen doesn't come out with a win today, I will be very, very surprised. I mean, 1.2 seconds on qualifying, that's the kind of pace we can expect to see from him in the race. It's going to be no contest.
It's going to be a no contest, but at the same time, I think you jinxed him.
It would not be the first time. It probably wouldn't be the last either. You got Amadima in the TNT Racing number 2. Or sorry, John Bodefer starting up outside, second row, right behind Amadima, who is on the outside pole at the moment of that number 3 in the TNT Racing machine. John Bodefer has been on top for so many races here. I would surprise to see him all the way down at 4th.
I'm surprised as well, but we have to take into consideration it is the most difficult track for you to nail a lap at all this season, so a mistake could have been done over there, and also get a clean lap as well, because if you hit one of the walls, even if you get a 0 contact or a 0x for contact, your lap is invalidated. So that extra set of caution as well is why maybe some drivers have been more conservative than others during the lap.
And so as the pace car comes out through the chase, we thank everybody for taking the time to join us for more Friday night open wheel action here from Australia. The iRacing safety car going to pull down the pit road, leaving it in the hands of Matthias Vittikainen. Expect the launch as soon as they exit Murray's corner. Oh, a bit of a tank slapper for Vittikainen on the exit of the final corner. Thought he might have gone around, but he keeps it together as we go. Green flag racing now from Bathurst already. Single file up into hell corner at turn number 1. Does everyone make it through cleanly in behind? So far, single file. One driver runs a bit wide. One car spins around. Alex May off and into the grass. Keeps it out of the wall, though, for the number 12 machine. And so it is, other than that, a clean start throughout the field as you see May rejoining at the tail end of the field. Vittikainen clear of Amadima down to second place. David Porcelli's picked up third as they duck up through turn 2 and thunder the way up the hill. Vittikainen is looking set to stretch his legs and walk away with the lead.
Yeah, and now here comes the dangerous part, because they're now climbing the top of the mountain, in cold tires, so the car can skid off any single time if you're too early on the accelerator. So they're gonna take a little bit of an extra caution going through Reed Park and McPhillamy once they go into Skyline, and managing to be as close to the track as you can while avoiding the wall.
You saw Lucas Popple, speaking of which, clap that outside wall as well as that one driver already down on pit road early on. You saw it was John Silva, the number 15 car, that's had some major issues in his number 15 machine. So unfortunate for Silva, who finds himself out of this race early on and diving their way back down the hill. Oh, heads up in front of the 18 car. One car just broke sideways. That's the 13 stuck against the wall. That is Michael Carpenter that got into the outside wall. You saw him just break sideways coming down through Skyline and through the dipper. Lucky for the 13 car to somehow keep that thing out of the wall.
Not only keep that out of the wall, but keep it out of the line of the other drivers, right? Because it is such a tricky portion of the track, as we see what happened to John right there. Car just kidded off into the exit of basically the cutting, going to Quarry Corner up to Reed Park, and then just misses completely the turn number 6 to 7.
And you see this battle starting to develop just up the road for second place. Vidikainen leads the opening lap here from Bathurst and gets set to kind of stretch his legs out there for the lead. Bodefer looking hungry for third place. Here's what happened to Michael Carpenter coming down through the dipper. Just takes too much curbing there. Raced the car loose. They locked it up, and holy cow, that is one of the hardest places on this track to keep it out of the wall. And we've seen so many times V8 supercars be bouncing off the walls left and right down through there in terrifying wrecks. Great job, though, for Carpenter to back it down, and good job on the field behind him for that heads-up driving that could have seen that wreck be a lot worse had that not been present.
Yeah, it could have gone up in shambles if he wasn't cautious enough either to come back on track or to try to stay in line. But fortunately, everybody just kept it out. He even himself kept it out of other drivers' way. So he's in the pits right now. I think race might be done for Carpenter, but nevertheless, we have out of 23 cars on the track, we still have 21 running.
Oh, and Bodefer that time hitting the outside wall. That was coming on up through, I believe, McPhillamy Park. So it looks as though John Bodefer having a bit of a rough time. You're right on board with the number 2 car. Just has not been able to break past David Porcelli and the number 4 car just up the road. This is always a sketchy portion of the racetrack here, especially when you're running nose to tail in open wheel machines such as these, no matter how tight they are. Out through Forrest's elbow, though, and down the Conrad straight. Could we see a move up into the chase?
Doesn't look like they're gunning for a move right over here, Nolan. It is basically a train of drivers trying to give each other toe and trying to close the gap on Vidikainen, but he's reigning supreme around the track. That is hard to make that overtake.
Rashad Craig, meanwhile, going to try to go the long way around through the chase on Alex Semilano Ieto. Ieto, though, cuts across and forces Craig to back out. That cost Craig a lot of time. Look further behind. Martin Arnoldus losing quite a bit of time as well. He's just lost about 2 spots there. So the number 11 car looks like kind of got a bit bargy with Erka Lindstrom, which saw Lindstrom up 1. Connor Melia also went through, bumping Arnoldus now all the way down to 11th.
And making an overtake over here will rely in a little bit of luck and also pace to get back up. I think Arnoldus does have that pace. Let's see what the number 11 has in store. I have info what happened to John, though, as Craig is going to be on the inside. He's not going to be able to make the move because the outside line, believe it or not, is a little bit good if you know what you're doing right there. But unfortunately, Leto actually gets overtaken.
Ieto pushing a bit too wide on the exit of turn number 2. That loses him some time to Rashad Craig. You saw Frank Newen thinking about it deeper in the background as well. Frank Newen, of course, has been a driver that we have seen very consistently up in the top 5, but he's all the way down to 8th place here at Bathurst so far, and trying to see if he can maybe mount a charge on Semilano Ieto. Look at Ieto having to back out, though, to avoid hitting the wall. They're kind of vaulted off of those curves. They can be so detrimental to your race, even in the supercars, let alone, lightweight Indy Pro 2000s like we're seeing here today. So it's been a good, solid race so far as you watch them cut back down through the mountain.
And not far behind there's Stark. If they continue battling and don't get any definite results in these battles, Stark can come along and make this a 4-way battle between up to the top. I was going to say up to the top 10, but it's going to be an interesting one how to negotiate this one. It does look like that Lindstrom and Melia are running away a little bit. Sorry, that was
Oldest
great
going to go.
away.
Oldest makes the pass up on Connor Melia. You saw just behind them up into the chase. Connor Melia drops back to 11th place as Arnoldus puts himself up into the top 10. You've got Erika Lindstrom just up the road from these guys. Melia will not be able to cut back as Vedekainen, unsurprisingly, logs fastest lap of 158.961 for the number 1 car up there so far. And looks like, other than that, no further changes in position here on what was that 3rd lap of the race. On to 4 now. And we could be seeing up the road, Ieto losing a bit of time to Frank Newen. Does deal with, think about having the run up into turn number 2, up at the quarry bend. Backs out before they get there.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, Arnaud is trying to look on the inside of Lindstrom. Lindstrom already covering early. There's a little bit of a late braking for Arnaud, and he gets one more spot.
It's one of the few corners where you definitely need to be the braver of the late breakers up into the quarry bend, because you can just do such a good job trying to pull ahead up through the middle section of this racetrack. I mean, you saw despite that bit of a lockup through the cutting, there was just no room for Lindstrom to try to work his way back up past Arnoldus as they fly up through Griffiths Mount Reed Park and now down the hill again for Sulman Park. They had just reached the summit that last time by, and I tell you what, I love the way Bathurst looks, and it is probably, gotta say, one of the most, if not the most beautiful racetrack you'll see in the world. And one of the most natural tracks as well. I mean, look through here. The walls themselves are cut out of the mountain. It's not set up along the mountain. That is grass and hills rising up on either side. It's like somebody just punched a hole right through it and paved a racetrack over it.
That's the perks of being a street track, doesn't it? Isn't it, Nolan? I think there's only one fraction of the track that is slightly a permanent racetrack. I think it is a front straight, but it's still, the front straight is a part of the street, as looks like that Melia is going to be able to make the move in the inside of the chase, but it's going to have the disadvantage on braking.
And on the braking, give it back to Erik Lindstrom up through the middle of the corner and now up to Murray's Bend. There's not going to be any pass made. Melia way too far back. So first third of the race already behind us. These drivers get set to kind of settle into their own little battles. You still got about 7th and 8th that's looking to pick on up between Newen and Ieto. So watch that battle now exit turn number 2. I'm keeping one eye out as well on 2nd and 3rd place. That's still not too far away, but they're not close enough to be able to go for any proper looks for positions. Newen close enough maybe to Ieto this time by. Doesn't look like it.
That doesn't look like it. It's that thing of, if you are in the train and you are the car in the middle, it's going to be very hard for you to be able to defend or catch anybody else, because if you make the wrong move, you can get overtaken pretty much easily. And Newen is trying, you know, he's a guy that if he finds an opening, he's going to try to make the overtake. But Mount Panorama is one of those survival ass tracks that if you make the wrong move, you're basically done, right? So you have to calculate your movements very swiftly and quickly and as clean as possible.
Newen and Ieto pushing the limits, getting up and onto the curbing and the grass on the exit of McPhilliby Park, and that's always a risky spot, Lorenzo, to find yourself up on those curbs. Too many times I've launched over those curbs and found myself going straight into a barrier, because you get on that sand trap, you just cannot turn that car back out onto the racetrack. Battle on for 2nd place up the road. Embedema under 5 from Porcelli. Gonna look for the inside up into the chase of the battle for 2nd and 3rd. Look at how close they're getting down to the chase, and it is a dead heat up into the braking zone. Embedema, though, able to pull ahead.
Somehow, somewhere, I thought they touched wheels for a split second right there, but it was just given enough room between both drivers as Porcelli tries to look on the outside, try to get a little bit of a better run through the final corner, but well covered by Medema as another lap is open, and he still has time, about 10 laps to go.
10 laps still remaining in this battle for 2nd place, and it is starting to pick on up at the front of the field. Porcelli not going to be close enough this time by to have that look up into Quarry Bend, so look back to Rashad Craig and Alex Evalado-Ieto. That battle starting to pick on up as the number 10 car looks up the inside into turn 2 on the number 8. Craig backs out, allowing the 10 to take that spot. Very easy move as Rashad Craig gives that one up very early on in the corner. That's a bit of an interesting move, and I wonder if maybe he thought it wasn't worth fighting for, despite being in the second best passing opportunity on the racetrack.
I think so, because you're driving open wheelers, right? Because open wheelers have that nature. If you make contact, you probably can damage a steering rack or suspension or something like that. It's not worth the risk of trying to contend for the overtake. So Craig, with the smart move and knowing he still has time to catch that position back on Lieto, so playing conservatively, waiting until the final moment to have that opportunity and make the overtake and get that spot.
And that's sometimes what you got to do. You got to be patient, kind of bide your time. This is definitely a racetrack where you have to pick your battles, and you're not going to gain anything by racing flat out foot to the floor every single corner. You have to make sure you know what you're going to do. Look at second up the road. Porcelli closing up on Mbadema. Not going to be a look this time, though, through the chase. Porcelli tucks in line, thinking about the outside. Mbadema goes defensive, and so far, neither driver kind of coughing up that chase yet. It has been a clean battle in the runs further up here in the order. This time, though, Porcelli definitely going to go to the outside line. Mbadema forces to defend through Murray's Bend, and Porcelli not able to get the over-under. Mbadema pulls ahead for P2 for the time being as we get set to potentially close out of the first half of this race at half a lap.
Yeah, and you know what the problem is between Porcelli and Mbadema? Because this indecision, or I'm not saying decision of the drivers, more of this switch of positions, is bringing Bodefor closer and closer towards them. So instead of battle for P2, yeah, that was a little bit close to call, but I think Porcelli might have got him over here.
Not quite, not able to pull the outside line. Mbadema holds firm onto that second place. Here comes John Bodefor. He's going to try to look up into the cut-in. Dobbs not to go for, though, backs out at the last possible second. And it is all starting to kick on off here at Bathurst as the first half of the race now complete as Vitikainen is up and over the through Skyline, and this battle for what is now third place getting set to pick on up. I tell you what, Porcelli's got to hope that John Bodefor is a patient man behind him, because he's got to try to close up the Mbadema with the draft. That might not happen, though. Look at how close Bodefor is up through Skyline and down through the Dipper. Almost nothing between the two of them. Tell you what, it takes some serious restraint, and I have to say, a bit of common sense when you're that close to avoid sticking one up the inside down through the chain. Down through the Dipper.
And down through the Dipper, and now for a double. It does look like that Bodefor is on the back, like smelling your own neck. Because he's so glued to your bat that he's not giving away. I do believe that Bodefor is not going to make the overtake over here. He's going to probably wait more laps, try to get the opportunity to make that move a little bit more cleanly, but you can see that that Porcelli managed now to shred a little bit of a difference that Mbadema actually opened up during the mountain part.
Still other battles developing up on track as well. Don't forget, you still got the battle for P6 as well as the battle for P10 that are both still well underway. They're not really three-car battles anymore. It's down to just two cars, and it is still a three-car fight up here for second place as well. We're keeping eyes on all three of those battles, watching for any potential looks or changes in positions. So far, second place has been the trio to watch so far. Porcelli still in the middle of the sandwich there. You got Bodefor just waiting in the wings. He's no doubt going to be looking to potentially go through and pick up a podium position at the end of this race, especially considering he's been in victory lane so many times so far throughout this season.
I think he hasn't got, I'm trying to remember, I think he hasn't got podium finishes in 2 or 3 races of the season. Everything else he got podium.
If not a race win.
Yeah, in general, I mean.
Battle on for sixth place. Rashad Craig made the pass up into the cutting, and Alexander Ieto, I think, had a huge moment. We'll probably have to take a look back at that. It was up through turn 3 and 4, but the number 10 car broke that car sideways, and Rashad Craig saw the opportunity and just capitalized on it, punching his ticket back around in the number 8 machine as we watch this battle continue to pick on up in the battles for Ps 2, 3, and 4. A little bit of a left front lock of Ramondema. Here's the look at what happened to the number 10 car of Ieto. Watch Rashad Craig behind. Here comes Ieto up through the corner. Just loses the back end. Keeps it out of the wall, though. That was a great save from the number 10 car.
That was a great save, as now we're going to see Porcelli trying to look on the inside. There's a back marker, which is Jungpin right in front of them on the chase. And Porcelli can get the move done. Does look like it.
Oh, still side by side, up through the chase. Porcelli pulls ahead, and he's going to take that spot away. Brad Yukin has to kind of get out of the way here. He's got a fierce fight coming through. He's going to bail out of the final corner and allow them through. Medema losing the back end. Here comes Bodefer being blocked out of the pit wall. Oh! Cut back to the right side of the racetrack. Nearly got put into the pit wall by Medema. So close to call as Porcelli runs wide next to turn number 1, kicking off here in the battle for second.
Yeah, we need to remind them this is not Hungaroring, and they're not Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello trying to do on the wall. That is insane, as probably Medema is going to have the look on Porcelli on the outside this time by.
Oh, no!
Oh!
Lost the back end by himself, and Medema going to be out of the race for sure from that one. It all falls apart for the TNT Racing driver. I think that was just a salesman by their lonesome, but John Bodefer did close up to the back end, but terrible moment for the 3 car. He finds his race over. It's falling apart. That is going to easily allow, though, John Bodefer up into a podium position. Now take another look at this one here on board for the back end of Medema. Oh, and it was contact. Bodefer ran him over.
I'm impressed right now. I'm surprised right now. It does look like that Bodefer made the misjudgment of thinking that Medema was going to stay on the outside, but because I think of the natural line, so it's kind of merged in, and Medema lost a little bit more momentum. Oh,
Rashad Craig in the battle for 6th place with Alex Evian Ieto, both drivers up and out of the race. This was coming down through the dipper here. Down the hill. Watch this one here, down to the dipper. Oh my God!
Oh!
Violent wreck and a tremendous one at that. Ieto up and into the air, almost over completely on Rashad Craig. That takes both those drivers out.
Yeah, that's race over for them, as Craig tried to resume this race a little bit, even though it doesn't look, the car doesn't look like it has a wing. Oh my goodness.
Just too much speed. Ieto was too close and just couldn't account for the fact that Rashad Craig was not as fast through him.
Yeah, the famous speed kills.
Man.
Ow.
So Rashad Craig going to have to come on down. Impressively enough, Rashad Craig has actually been able to wrestle that Pro Mazda around to the front straightaway and is actually bringing it into pit road now. So that's honestly a surprise that Craig's been able to bring it down. I'm going to give him props for not just taking the toe back to pit road with no rear wing in what is arguably one of the most dangerous parts of the track to not have a rear wing on for it.
Yeah, you really don't want to go 250, 255 down the chase and try to make that right-hand turn while being flat out and still making it at the end of the day. Somehow, some way, Craig pulled it off, though. He's going to lose several spots. I think he's going to be all the way down to the back, maybe P17 or 18, depending on circumstances. But still will be on this race, though.
And because of that, it's all kind of falling apart, hasn't it? I mean, there's not a whole lot of battles left on the track as a result of all of that. That was just complete and utter pandemonium at the moment. So, yeah, everybody kind of running their own little battles. You still got Frank Newman and Martin Arnoldus. This is the battle for what is now 5th place because of all that attrition. There's also one for 17th and 18th, but this is definitely the one to watch for the time being. It's about the same distance between the two of them. And this is one of the only battles you have left on track now. That is 2 major battles taken out in the span of about 30 seconds from each other.
Yeah, and also is the nature of Mount Panorama with these kind of races that is more of a gap race than anything else. If the skill level is not equal or up top, even up top, you can see those kind of gap races, as we're going to see Arnaudo's having tried to fend off Nguyen. Nguyen is not going to have the opportunity to make the overtake here. I think he's playing patient, maybe trying to make a overtake opportunity maybe on the next lap or so.
If he can get close enough, Nguyen is still within a shot here to try to get a fifth place finish with just 4 laps remaining now in this race. And Frank Nguyen, not close enough up in the hell corner, and I don't think you'd want to make the pass up there anyway, because it just puts you in a bad situation up for turn 2 right at the Quarry Bend. So Martin Arnoldus might have to go defensive here. Frank Nguyen opts to potentially have a run up into turn 2. Will he have that look? He's closing on up with this powerful draft, but I don't think he's going to be close enough this time around. Might have to wait until the chase.
No, he has to wait until the chase, unless he makes the biggest lunge in the whole Australian history of motoring, as the Canadian is going to be hung back going through the cutting, and going to be basically passenger of doom for a few more corners until down the chase.
Oh, unless he gets him to the wall first. Talk about a close call up at Reed Park. How many times have we seen V8 supercars push wide there and just body slam that wall with the left side? It has been by far one of the more treacherous corners you can find up on the racetrack, and back down through the hill. Both drivers still keeping it clean and nailing this line down through the racetrack. You can watch the cars almost leaping through the air as they fly down through some of these diffs. It is no wonder why these cars don't race here in the real world. And I have a feeling Frank Nguyen actually might have carried a bit too much speed all the way down through there. And what I mean by that is he carried so much speed that he found himself offline for a good portion of the section. Because look how far back he is now. He's not going to be nearly close enough to have this run up into the chase.
Yeah, and that run-up is so ridiculous depending on how much you get the jag. And I think that's where the setup comes along a little bit, because you can set up for medium-high depending on circumstances because of the mountain part. But you lose effectiveness in the chase section, right, Nolan? So I really am interested to see what is the setup done by both Arnoldus and Nguyen right here, to see which one does have an advantage in terms of drag racing when coming down to the chase in the Conrad straight.
So 4 laps remaining this time by, and up the mountain straight this time around. Still see Connor Melia just kind of hanging on back and hoping maybe these two guys have some misfortunes up in front of him so he can score a potential top 5. Up into 2, Arnoldus still has got a solid gap over Frank Nguyen. If he can just maintain this gap at the moment, he'll be able to have this position clean and done. It looks to me like Martin Arnoldus is just so much more confident through that final sector of the racetrack, at least in this mountain section, before you come on out through Forest Elbow.
And making an overtake over here would require a like, what would be the best measurement of courage trying to make an overtake over here, Nolan? I'm trying to find the right measure.
I would not know what to tell you, to be completely frank. I will say, though, there were some yellow flags up at the chase, and I have a feeling it was a big incident as Rashad Craig got collected up again. I think it was between the battle for 4th and 5th between Bradley and Setzer.
Yeah,
they were kind of looking to be a bit close.
Yeah, because Bradley does look like it. He's falling back several places. He might be back to the pit lane.
I know Rashad Craig was definitely caught up involved in that. He had just passed Emma. We'll take a look at this one now. This is from Rashad Craig, and you see a lot of smoke in front of him. It was a wreck. Setzer was off the track. Oh, Craig just lost it by himself. Completely unrelated between these two drivers. And there you see the number 19 car, who was kind of at the center of the mess of what happened just up the road for Rashad Craig. That's David Bradley. Oh, he had a spin of his own out of the final corner and tagged the wall, and he took the toe back.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's the mountain striking one more time.
Look at how much closer Nguyen is this time by as they cross the line with 3 to go. This is the initial wreck that saw Craig get cut up again. Double lockup up into the chase, and wow! Talk about breaking the car sideways for Earl Setzer and then Rashad Craig. Whoops! Just lose it by himself. Good job on Craig to keep it out of the wall, though. And we'll look back. 2 live pictures. Frank Nguyen still looking to close that gap, but Martin Arnoldus is just so much better on a straight line.
Yeah, and it does look, I think it gives a little bit of an indication that Nguyen might have a little bit more wing in comparison to Arnoldus and in the straights. That's why Arnoldus might be gaining on Nguyen in the straights than Nguyen is gaining on the corners. And it looks like Botafour is damaged. he has damage on the front wing. That's why Bopo now is being able to catch on by the Alpine Stars geodesic driver and contend for P3.
It's not a big surprise when it has damage. It was a pretty hefty shunt that it gave to the gearbox of Amademba that likely gave him that damage. I'm surprised he even kept his front wing at all, but it is, bent off a little bit, kind of, I want to say listed up a little bit to the left side of the car from this head-on shot here. I think is probably a fair guess as to where that thing's headed. So definitely losing a bit of time, losing definitely top-end speed. As look at Lucas Popple closing up, and there's nothing Bodefor can do to defend that one. Popple takes that position up into the chase, and he'll put himself up into third.
Even though the move at first, looking from that angle, looks a little bit sketchy, doesn't it?
It certainly does, but the speed difference, I mean, there's nothing John Bodefor could do to defend against that one. It's not going to stop him from trying to come back, though, in the final corner, but I mean, what are you going to do? You got a damaged front wing, and you know that when you get up to speed, that 6 car is going to be quicker. I mean, why even try?
Yeah, it's not going to be quicker. It's going to be much quicker, I think. About, if I had to estimate, it might be quicker by 10 or 15 kilometers per hour. That's a lot in this track.
It certainly is. It's almost an uncomfortable amount quicker. So we look back to 5th and 6th place, and I want to kind of compare the lap times here. I mean, Martin Arnoldis, despite being the leading driver in this pair, still 2/10 quicker last time by than Frank Newen. I mean, I don't think he's going to be able to really get there, as Jason Petty is now into pit road, and looks like he took the toe back, someone from the number 18 machine. So unfortunate for Jason Petty, who finds his race ending just 2 laps shy of the end.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's the worst kind of heartbreak that you could possibly get. As Nguyen's car gets a little bit wobbly out of the cutting. Not surprised to see a car wobbly out of the cutting, because it is an uphill left-hander. Is a first gear corner, and whenever you try to get back up in the power with that elevation change, the car does get a little bit light, and you have to rely on your skills alone to try to make that in one piece. But that might be easy of doing, though, to be very honest.
Your race leader has just begun, or is going to be starting the final lap in just a minute. As Newen pushing wide on the exit of Forest's Elbow, and there you can see Vitikainen, excuse me, across the line. And that number 1 car has just been on fire today. 13.9 second gap back to David Porcelli, who's just kind of running by his lonesome at the moment. So it's been a great run for him. Heads up, that was a car. That was Earl Setzer having yet more struggles off of the racetrack. Unfortunate for Earl Setzer. I think he was in a bit of a battle and got tipped around, I want to say, by Rashad Craig again. They're kind of around the same portion of racetrack there. They just lapped Brad Junkman as well, so that's an interesting incident for Setzer being collected in, but doesn't collect the leaders, which is, of course, the good news for him, as you see this battle now for 5th and 6th place started its final circuit around.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like that Nguyen is going to have the action enough to try to close by this time around during the mountain straight. He's going to have to do something else, as we're going to see what happened to Seltzer going through turn number 1.
Oh, wow.
Is that a shot Craig that touched him?
It was. Second time they've been in the same place sideways together, but that's the first time they've actually been related in the midst with each other. So that's unfortunate for Rashad Craig. Just overshot the corner, really, and just ran him over. There's kind of no really kind way to say that, unfortunately. I mean, wow, of course, we've got this battle for 5th and 6th still raged on, but that doesn't look like it's going to be going anywhere. Matthias Vitikainen, though, he's currently out of Forest Elbow and is thundering his way down through the Conrad Straight for the final time today. Complete and utter domination for the number 1 car. There's no better way to put that one. Might catch Rashad Craig yet, who has no front wing, just trying to limp that thing home at the end of what has been a very rough race with the number 8 car. Going to move aside and allow Vitikainen through. And the number 1 car going to take this one through the final corner up at Murray's Bend. And Matthias Vitikainen will be your race winner from Mount Panorama Bathurst for the iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship. 13 seconds clear of David Porcelli. And how about the battle for third place on? John Bodefer makes the pass around the outside into the chase on Lucas Poppel right at the buzzer. Bodefer got the speed, went account, and made the lunge on Lucas Poppel, and he'll be able to potentially pick up a P3 finish if Poppel can't get back to him through Murray's Bend, and he does not. Bodefer gets third place, and how about Medema trying to run down Martin Arnoldas for fifth, but also not going to get there.
Yeah, not going to be able to get there just as close as you can think of, as we're seeing Alex May going through the chase right now. But basically everybody within the top 5, all the way up to top 8, has basically finished their laps. And what a dominant effort from the guy, from the racer from Inertia Sim Racing. One of the Foxes basically dominated from start to finish and never let go from that P1, showing why the mountain, when you have that domination on the mountain, it is so rewarding to drive.
It's a difficult track to get right, but when you do get it right, it is just absolutely insane. Still waiting on a couple of drivers to cross the line. I think we're just waiting on 3 more at the moment. I know James Watson is still taking his final trip around. Same story with Shane Holstein and Jason Pedu. However, neither driver on the same laps as each other. So I think we're pretty much safe here at this point, Lorenzo, to go and say, let's take a look at your official post-race results here from Mount Panorama Bathurst. I mean, it has just been an insane race today. I mean, that was it got crazy right at the middle of the race, and we'll take a look at your official results now. Matthias Vittikainen taking a race victory by 14.3 seconds over David Porcelli. John Bodefer finishes out the podium with Lucas Poppel in 4th. Martin Arnoldas is in 5th place with Frank New in 6th. Conor Melia is in 7th. Eric Lindstrom is in 8th with David Stark in 9th, and Alex May going to be picking up a top 10 finish here, Lorenzo.
Yeah, and the rest of the field goes by with 11th place going to Greg Garris, James Watson 12th place, Rashad Craig in 13th, Rowdy Moreland in 14th, or Setzer 15th, Jason Padush, Shane Holstein, Brad Yuckman, and Medema, and Michael Carpenter round out the top 20. Just remembering that Medema and Carpenter, I think, had issues and managed to still carry on despite the issues.
That leaves David Bradley down in 21st place. Alex Sevillano Ieto, unfortunately, having issues in a crash that puts him 6 laps down, with John Silva wrecking out on just the first lap of this race, coming up the hill in 23rd place. No surprise here, Lorenzo, that Matthias Vittikainen set the fastest lap with a 158.701 up on lap number 14. And surprisingly, at the end of the race, this means, of course, that Vittikainen set a lap that was faster than his qualified lap by about 3/10 at the buzzer. Holy cow.
Yeah, it does look insane to think about it, but if we're looking at a proper way, once the tires build up properly, you don't get the 2 laps in here. The 2 laps you get in the qualifying session are not your best laps in Mount Panorama, are actually right about lap 5 or 6, whenever the cars are already built up some heat and the car gets lighter, so that combination makes a really good combination for you to get that perfect lap, and that's what happened for Vittikainen. But then again, the Inertia Sim Racing team just showing why the Foxes are very strong in Mount Panorama.
And for now, here from Mount Panorama, it is time for us to say farewell on another broadcast of the iRacing Indy Pro 2000 Championship. I'm going to remember with Lorenzo Bonner beside me up in the commentary box. And of course, Tyler Maxon doing a great job behind the cameras for us today as well. Thank you for joining us for more Indy Pro 2000 action. And we will see you guys next week.